Okay, people, this is January 31st, 2017. As you can see, let's see here. What am I doing? Gotta watch this camera. Right? Oh, God. I'm trying to get this thing up. There it is. You see that? Okay. So anyway, as you can see, this is how I do it. I have more books underneath there and more books over there. And I got more books down there. You know, books everywhere. I use a lot of dictionaries, people. Dictionaries. Sources and stuff like that. Right? That's how I wrote the Constitution for the nonprofit. That's how I developed my writing skills. That's how I learned how to do HTML. Okay, people. I can only assume that this is working. It is January 1st at you didn't know I had this, did you? It was born a little while ago. Just one was born outside when it started to snow. I have little videos. I just haven't been uploading them because I've been busy, right? It takes time to do this stuff, you know. So anyway, this is Sky. This is one little kitten that was born just as it was starting to snow. It was born outside, and I think what happened was maybe there was another one or two. The mother wasn't very big. Sparky wasn't very big, right? But, you know, I throw the cats outside, and she was sitting on the chair, and I never even stopped to think about it. And Tisha came upstairs at 2 o'clock in the morning, and she's like trying to get in and waiting for me to come to the door, and she's looking at the cat, and she says, is that a kitten? And sure enough, Sparky had given birth outside, right? Hold on a minute, I think I have water boiling. I just don't want to burn the pot first part of my day. Anyway, it's like going on 6 o'clock in the morning here. And, you know, I'm sitting for so long doing this stuff that, what do you call it? I'm getting up and I can't even walk away. Right? It's pretty rough, people. I figured like this, you know, I mean, it's pretty obvious I'm working on something here, right? So once I put it in, I'm just gonna walk through it. That's how I tell myself I'm gonna cope with this, because, you know, this whole situation is unfair. It's totally unfair. It's unfair to my family. You know, it's unfair to my grandson. It's definitely unfair to me, right? I didn't want. I wanted to say something. I don't know what it was I was gonna say, but. You know, I just, I want to show you these pictures I have up here. I'm like, you know, because I'm watching my old videos, eh? And the jewelry boxes I made. I have 2 pictures up here that could be almost the equivalent of, right, the jewelry box and the jewelry box. Slightly different pictures, but the frames, you know, the size of the frames are the same. Like the jewelry boxes were the same, right? And they have nice trim up there, right? And I'm looking at all these books I have, you know, and I think about like the generation, the young generation now, right? I think about how they don't get enough reading. They read online through Facebook what's being presented to them, but they don't go necessarily offline and pick up a book for informational purposes, that is, right? Not just some random, you know, romance or science fiction, or, you know, but an actual information book of some kind that, you know, you can learn something from. And I encourage them to pick up books and to read, right? You know, go read up. I have books all over the place, right? And mine aren't reading that much. I know other people's kids aren't reading that much, and I just don't know if that's a good thing, people. because this quick read stuff on social media, it's you know, it's designed to I don't know. There's so much negative imagery that comes across. Like, for example, I got up like around 4 in the morning or whatever it was. Grab a tea, go on Facebook. What do I see? You know, I haven't even started my day yet. I see this woman choking her child. Literally. And I'm like, am I watching this? Is this what I'm actually seeing? Like, this can't be real. And if it's not that, it's animals being abused. Right? Or whatever. And, you know, that's quite different than if you were to read a book. A medical book or something, you know, just for general knowledge. Even for yourself, right? Or, I don't know, what else? What else can you read? Well, I read a lot of dictionaries. And when I'm working on the nonprofit, I like to bring out these kind of books. Like if I'm working on web pages or something, which I never have time. But I like these kind of books. Well, that's a dictionary. Oh, here's one. It's a very old book. Oh, that's a new dictionary of thoughts. Can you see that? It's so old that the binder is coming off. Anyway, they're in there. They're quotes and stuff. They're books like this that are quotes. So if I'm working on web pages or something like that, I'll bring them out and I'll read through them as much as I can. I don't read every quote. I read some of them. And I find one or two that I like, right? And, you know, young people, they don't do that. They don't do that. So when they come across one, you know, do they even pay attention to what's being said? Kind of makes you wonder. I know I wanted to say something about Uncle John. I'm pretty sure, people, that he's sitting up in a care home. I don't even know if there's cameras working, to be honest with you, in terms of time. I don't even know if I have room to upload the video in terms of, you know, hard disk space, right? Hard drive space, right? Because, you know, I need to move some files, right? So poor Uncle John, like, I think part of the problem here, on a political level, in terms of what's going on in these care homes, or temporary care wards that's being initiated by hospitals, because from my experience, just the way things unfolded, it brings me back to Christmas time with Scrooge laying on his deathbed with the chambermaids coming in and robbing him as he lays there. Because that's pretty much what happened to Uncle John, in my opinion. He got sick. He went to an environment where he was supposed to be safe. And instead of being safe, he was rummaged through as the chambermaids were talking behind his back, right? Taking what they wanted and bartering it somewhere else. And on a political system, Uncle John had assets. He had the ability to pay as you go. Because that's the kind of healthcare system that we have here in Canada. It's a pay as you go. If you can afford to pay, even if it's being subsidized, like in my case with my teeth, I'm allowed $1,000 for every 2 years to do my teeth. The last time I went to the dentist, I asked them to do something about this. The prior time I went to the dentist, I asked them to do something about this. I asked them like 3 times. I said, re-drill it, refill it, do something. In the end, they ended up sending me, they kept taking x-rays. I got tired. I said, look, you got to stop taking these, because we can't do anything if there's an infection, but we have to take an x-ray. I'm going to just show you an example how clinics draw on their money in terms of, well, we have to take the x-ray in order to see if there's an infection, because if there's an infection, we can't do nothing with the tooth. They take the x-ray, there is no infection, but they still say they can't do nothing with the tooth. That happened to me 2 to 3 times at the last time I went to the dentist, which was a couple of years ago before Uncle John went missing. Because in 2015, Uncle John and myself had decided that was the year when everybody was going to get their teeth done, because it's a pay-as-you-go system, even for people on welfare. Because as soon as they said they couldn't do anything for my teeth, that put me into a totally different league, where they referred me to a specialist who I couldn't see unless I could slap down $160 just for the consultation fee. Which means I would have had to continue to pay something. And I couldn't make that commitment because I had other priorities in the house. And John and I agreed that we'd deal with it in 2015. So I waited. Because we were all going to go into one at one time, right? Okay, well, it's kind of the same thing when you get into the hospital system, only it's not teeth. It's, in John's case, it was, well, he's old. We need to have our tax base coming in through the employment, right? Because people work, they get taxed, and it goes to the government, right? So the more people working in the government's mind, the more taxes that they're going to get. So that's they got to keep a steady supply of old people coming in to fill those fucking jobs. Somebody said I should not swear so much. I should what do you call it? Spoof it up, right? Just be a little more professional. Well, not today, people. It's like 6 o'clock in the freaking morning. I sat here so long yesterday. I have a little clip. You'll see it, right, if you haven't seen it already. And by the time I got up off this chair, I couldn't freaking walk. And that's why it's dangerous for gamers, right? Because, you just seize up, man. Seize freaking right up. So anyway, back to Uncle John. Assuming that this is still taping, because I don't know if the battery ran out or not. Because I can't flip the screen and see. Keeps flipping out on me, right? So, he goes there and they discover that he can afford a pay-as-you-go system. So he becomes a valuable commodity. And it just so happened he had a sister that knew how to play the system. Because she's part of the problem. Right? Because she works for it. And she has a quota to fill. And just so happens she lives on Sunshine Coast. Now, I'm talking like a politician. She lives on Sunshine Coast, a community where the government doesn't like to invest into because their tax base in terms of employees doesn't pay out much to the government because there's not enough people up on the Sunshine Coast. Only small pockets of 500 people here, 1,000 people there, maybe 2,000 over there. But other than that, it's all freaking highway. Right? And they want the best of the best because they live along the ocean. And just because they live along the ocean, regardless of how much money they have, they all think that they're equal to get the best of the best when you live in a province and everybody is treated equally. So they want better ferry service. They want better this. And, they need to bring in hospitals and blah, 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 which I do agree that there needs to be more hospital-based services to the communities out further in the interior and up along the Sunshine Coast. But besides that point, right now they're looking for a way to sustain themselves. So what better way than to capitalize on a booming baby boom of elderly coming in for the next 20 years, people. And this is why I point out that the majority of these workers that work in these environments, 2 things. First, when the BC Liberal government came into power in 2001, by 2003, what they had done is they busted up the unions. They broke up the upper and the lower, right? Obviously, the lower got cut off to the side, right? And that's the kitchens, the kitchen staff, the cleaning staff, and those type of people within the provincial government in terms of a union worker. they lost a lot of benefits, okay? And not only did they lose a lot of benefits, but from what I saw when Uncle John went into the system is the provincial government, now whether it was going on under the NDP or not, I don't know. I just know that through the last 16, 17 years, through the BC Liberal government, the majority of the workforce is like 98, 99% foreign. Literally. They don't speak English very well. You know, if some can even speak English, I'd be surprised that they all could speak English. And if they can't speak English very well, you know they can't fucking write it. Sorry, did that on purpose. Just to highlight the problem. Because if you've got an immigrant population coming in that are from different countries, because it's not one particular country, although there is a graph that you can see what proportion in terms of numbers coming in. And the majority of people going into the system in terms of the elderly are Caucasian homeowners, right? Or with pension plans, like in Uncle John's case. There's a conflict of interest, right? Because first of all, you're dealing with a underclass of workers who aren't being treated equally within a provincial government that, when it's working for a government, should be treated equally. So it makes that work class angry because they know they're being exploited, but they want to come to Canada and they want to work, right? And they need to work, and the government needs those tax-based dollars, and they need to save money. So versus paying their own to educate their own young people like my daughters and my sons and, you know, those type kids, right, that were born here, and put them to work at a union wage. It's American politics now, right? Just bring in the foreigners and lower their wage, right? Give them less benefits. And because they're foreigners, you can always hold that over their head. You can say, look, if you don't follow the rules, you're going back. And that's how I felt about Uncle John's situation. I felt a lot of those workers, even though, you know, I don't feel that, you know, if they had a choice that they would have participated in the behavior that they did. Because nobody stood up. It was a colluded group of, oh, here's a pay-as-you-go client. Not patient, but client. Now we have to find a way to get him away from his family. And it just so happened you have a head nurse that runs that kind of system where she's looking around cherry picking, like social workers cherry pick children to see who has the most money to pay for taking that person, making them sell their house. And all the workers, all the drones, they're not saying nothing because maybe they can buy that house one day if they stay quiet long enough, right? You know, they're lucky just to get a fucking paycheck. Oops, sorry, that one slipped out. Right? You see where I'm going with this? And they're shipping them off to these high-end, and get this one, non-for-profit care home. Because these guys are shysters. They're a criminal organization. Seriously, if you think about it, it only takes 3 to make a criminal organization. Nobody's immune from becoming a criminal organization if they do it with ill will and wrongdoing. Right? So, you know, they're looking for those pay-as-you-go clients to fill up these non-for-profit care homes that are popping up along the Sunshine Coast, right? Because they have to import some kind of job so they can justify their demands when it goes to the Legislative House of Assemblies that they want better ferry service. They're not going to get better ferry service unless, of course, they can prove that they can make fucking money out there. The fish are dying, right? The farming isn't, nobody wants to buy farm fish. There's only so much you can do out there. So what better way than to traffic old people, basically, as they sift and go through, like in a rummage sale state, through the multiple temporary care wards throughout the bigger cities. Well, there's only really one, Vancouver and this whole area up in here, right? You're not going to find much up in Kamloops. Kamloops needs to keep their old people because Kamloops is a small community. But a city is freaking free for all. Seriously, this is what the provincial government is perpetrating. Okay? I don't think John I don't even think he's the tip of the iceberg. I think it just came his turn as soon as he aged into that system. Because that's the kind of system that we have. Right? John was a representation of a paycheck to a paycheck. He got paid. Somebody took something from him, from his paycheck, because they didn't want to wait for me to freaking sign it. And so they stole it, basically. That's what they did. Okay? And then, because the care ward got their $32 a day after, I'm sure it was all said and done, and his sister signed the check. Because it's a pay-as-you-go system. And then, you know, she took what she wanted, made it all nice and whatever she thinks, right? And then moves them into a care home to subsidize a failing economy that has a bigger entitlement mentality than a welfare recipient, if you really look at it, and look at the two systems, where the haves, compared to the have-nots, are going around acting worse than Alibaba and the 40 Thieves, just so they can keep what they have. And then go back to the government and ask for more. Oh, but Premier Christy Clark, we got 20 non-for-profit, I haven't even touched on that subject yet, non-for-profit, what do you call those things, old care homes, up and down the Sunshine Coast, 20 of them now. We're not making no money. They're non-for-profit. You need to give us some more. Right? Even though the client is paying for it. Okay? And then they're going to ask for better ferry services so they can cross over and go fucking fishing when you're not looking. As you pay for their privilege. Because that's what you're doing as a taxpayer. You are paying for these people to rob you when it's your turn. John paid taxes. He didn't pay taxes to be robbed. Now I'm getting angry. So I better cut this shit out. Right now. Okay? See if it's even videotaping. Oh, looks like I got about 5 minutes left on this camera. So there's the picture. Do you see? Isn't that nice? They're beautiful. I found those at spring cleanup. Like years and years and years and years and years and years and years ago. Huh. See? More books, people. Oh yeah. I want to know, people. Like, seriously. I want to know what's freaking fair about this. Like, you tell me why I even need to be sitting in here doing this. I'm supposed to live in a civilized society. We do not treat people like a commodity. And if we do, somebody has to stand up and say something. And this is where I'm at in my life, right? Because if I don't do this, people, my kids will forever hold their head held down in shame. Only because of what the Duncan clan is trying to imply about their parent. Okay? And John's decision to be in their life since their birth. So, what are we defending here? And again, why am I even having to do this? Like, seriously. Because as much as I like words, right? Like, hold on a minute. I'm balancing this on fingers. These are just words, people. Words. Government is full of freaking words. Well, there's some words for you. I don't know. I can't see, the screen blinked out. I'm up to 100.